Well, we've all been in a long-distance relationship at some point or another. I know I've had my share of them. And Julie Jeske, our relationship expert, is here today to talk to us about them and sort of, you know what, do they work?
And if you ask 10 different people, you'll get 10 different responses. And usually the people who've been in them where they didn't work say they never work. And the people who've been in them and are now happily together somewhere say absolutely they work. I will tell you that relationships in general take work, and long-distance relationships are going to take an extra amount of work.
And they do.
Yeah.
I mean, well, but you get more time to talk.
Yes.
You know, because you're always
you
on the phone.
talk about your feelings. Yes.
Yeah.
And now it's a lot easier to do that. I mean, when I was in a long-distance relationship, cell phones weren't popular.
Right.
So now it's like you've got texting and message and phone messages and Skype, you know, so you can video conference. You can be in contact a lot less expensive and a lot easier than you were able to in the past.
Right.
You know, I have been in a couple of long-distance relationships, and, you know, it really didn't bother me. But the fellow said, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. But, you know, he knew I was here, and he was in Seattle. So, I mean, I think maybe that's an excuse.
Sometimes.
The relationship probably isn't working. So
That's a possibility.
So how can you make sure that you're successful in a long-distance relationship?
You have to talk about your expectations as you're going into the long-distance part. You know, do I expect to talk to you every day?
Yeah.
Do I expect to have to come and visit you every other month? Are you going to come visit me? The problem is if I expect we're going to be connecting all the time and you think we're not going to be, then we're going to be getting into fights. So you need to talk about your expectations. Talk about what cheating means, because cheating means different things to different people.
Like some people just going out to coffee with a coworker is a problem, and others, you know, no problem.
Yep. Cheater.
Yeah, some people flirting, you know.
I mean, I didn't mean to point at you, I'm sorry.
I know.
Accusations on lying. It was just a...
That's a different show, Shannon.
So, but yes, people have different ideas, so we need to talk about that. How long do we plan on being in this long-distance relationship? Let's talk about that. I mean, someone earlier said communication. Yes, you have to communicate more than you might have to if you've got nonverbal communication. So you're really having to rely on the voice. And that can be tricky, because if you have one negative conversation, it's like my whole relationship's in turmoil.
Well, or especially if that's the one you have at the end of the evening, and then it just leaves that taste in your mouth, and you can't see the person to make it better. You can't hug or kiss, or, you know, it's like, oh, that just lingers like that.
I have a girlfriend that does it by Skype.
Yeah, that is so popular now. And that's going to make it probably easier for some people.
Yeah.
You can do a lot.
I just had a visual that I don't think I need.
So, you know, obviously the long distance is a challenge.
Yes.
So with this relationship, what are other challenges that come along with this type of long distance relationship?
So it can be, like we just talked about a second ago, if you have a bad conversation, it's like, if you're the person who's always going to events with other couples and you're in a relationship, so you don't have the flexibility to flirt or be looking for another partner, but you're just by yourself, that can feel really hard.
Well, because then you feel single.
Yeah.
But you're not.
You don't get the perks of being single.
Right.
If you're really independent, or your partner is and the other person's not, that can be tricky. Jealousy can kind of pop up even more than it might if you're able to see each other. You know, if I live in one city and you live in another city, and I'm talking about my new friend Matt, and you're like, well, who is that?
Who's Matt?
Yeah. That can make it a little bit more difficult. I mean,
you're basically going through everything that ever went wrong in any long-distance relationship I ever had.
Wow.
But it's interesting because, well, Mark and I were long-distance when we first started, and then I eventually moved to San Francisco to be with him. And I always said I would never move for a man, you know, so I broke my rule there. But whatever, we're married.
I know, it seems like it was worth it in the end.
Yeah, right. That was a good move. But it was interesting, and I don't know if you have thought about this angle, but I wanted to ask you. But I feel like maybe I had those long-distance relationships for so long because it made me feel safe, because I didn't have to commit.
That's
like,
really great.
I kind of had to look at myself after a while, like, why do I keep doing this to myself?
Kept repeating the same relationship with a different person.
There can be a safety. I mean, you can only be so intimate over the phone and over the video conferencing, you know?
And you have a lot of free time.
That's right.
You get to be really independent. So if that's important to you, I mean, there are some people out there who long distance at periods of time. I don't think a 20-year long distance relationship, I wouldn't prescribe that to somebody, right? But for periods of time, there are some people who can do long distance really well. And there are others who cannot. And then after the long distance, when you're finally in the same city, that can add a whole new slew of problems.
I mean, everything changes, the whole dynamic.
You go from being like in having weekend-long dates and reunion sex all the time and all the really fun and exciting parts, and pretty soon you're like taking out the garbage together.
Well, my husband and I have been together for almost 20 years, so sometimes it's nice within the relationship that's close to have a long-distance relationship within the relationship, because it brings you back. So
distance makes the heart grow fonder.
It definitely does.
It does.
But that's the balance. We need that balance. So if you're having some time apart, then to have some time together.
Both do. Both need that balance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good tips. Okay, what about homework? We love our homework.
So homework this week is to bring back the love letter. And this is not just for someone who's in a long-distance relationship. This is for anybody who's in a relationship. Write your partner a love letter or a card and either mail it to them or leave it in a strategic place for them.
How do I love thee?
Yes.
Let me count the ways.
Oh, it's great. Well, Julie, Jeske, we love when you come on and share your insights. And we're getting close to the last Wednesday of the month. So if you've got questions, please send them in to us at studio6@KOIN.com. And Julie Jeske will answer those the last Wednesday, which I believe is next week. Wednesday. So get those questions in to us. Thanks again, Julie. And we'll be right back.